Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
Like a Fantha.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Boom! This is Making Tracks.
This is the way.
Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
I know these people. They are brutal. Does this look Jedi to you?
That's not how the Force works.
They'll never see it coming.
Count me in.
You're listening to Making Tracks, and a very special episode as we return to the halls of Olympia for London Film and Comic Con back in July of 2024. Fantha Tracks were part of the Star Wars Zone once again, overseeing the second stage and chatting to numerous Star Wars guests across the weekend. First up in this episode, we sat down with Anton Valensi. Anton played the box guard in the Narkina 5 sequence from Star Wars Andor. So here's myself and Anton Valensi talking all things Andor and much, much more on this special episode of Making Tracks.
Right, we're back on the second stage at hello, waving to people. This is so professional. Second stage at London Film and Comic Con, and we are continuing with our talks. We're here with Anton.
How you doing?
I'm very well, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Enjoying the show?
Yes, really good day.
Is this one of your first shows? Is this early days for you, or are you an old hand?
The second one since Andor came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And what do you make of it? It's a bit different here, isn't it?
Yeah, I like it here though. I like the space and the people here. It's nice. Good show.
Is it good to get the chance to interact with people and just chat a little bit?
Yeah,
about
I mean, listen, actors like gossiping about the job and what happened on the job, and so it's good to explain it because people see the finish product. So talking to them about it is quite nice. Yeah.
And is that when you're doing these shows, making I say regular shows, waggle the air quotes. Star Wars is not a regular show.
No.
So do you go into your experience thinking, maybe one day I might just end up coming face to face with a fan and having the chance to talk about this, or do you just completely focused on the work?
Yeah, you're usually just focused on the work. So you don't know what to expect, or you don't know, I don't know how popular they're going to be, but until it's actually on and you go, oh yeah, shit, you forgot yeah.
That's a good point actually, because it's not guaranteed that everything's going to land and be so memorable. Andor landed and was very memorable.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it, so yeah, it was good.
When you were doing your sequences, the whole Narkina 5 sequence, did you know that was not the only memorable part of Andor? There's many memorable parts, but most fans think that sequence, that whole set of stories, that trilogy of episodes really stands out. Did you kind of get that vibe when you were doing it?
No, but I did get a vibe because a good friend of mine, Andy Serkis, he plays a really interesting role.
Yeah.
And he was, we were going through his script because he had to do this massive monologue, and so I was helping him, we were doing it together. And he was going, yeah, there's something interesting, because the thing is, with these shows, and like I've been on Dune 2, or a show like that, or a movie, you're not allowed to see the scripts.
No.
So they're sort of dripped to you daily, or you can look at it for a little while on an app, and then it comes off the app. So it's really, cloak and dagger basically. And then he got to see the script because he needed to know what was going on with him. Yeah. And he said to me, listen, this character's interesting. I said, why? And he was like, well, because at the end of it, I'm trying to escape, help everyone, and I can't swim. I was like, oh, right, that's an amazing twist. So, yeah, that's something like you sort of didn't expect.
Can you, when you say you see portions of the script, generally you see portions of the script, is it better for you as an actor to just see the bits that relate to you rather than the whole picture? Or, because in real life you don't see the whole picture, you just see your own little bit.
No, or if someone sort of mentioned you or spoke about you, it's quite helpful to get some sort of background on what people think of you. So that's helpful.
It is helpful.
But with Star Wars, Dune, all the sci-fi stuff, they don't let you see anything the day before, which is scary for some actors because they need to prep and everything. But yeah.
And what was the prep like for you? Your character's obviously is an Imperial, so there's that aspect of it. But what was the prep like for yourself with this character?
Well, I think the prep was more. It was a funny situation because when they build the sets, or this particular set was a prison set, it's a 360 set, which means everything is in shot. Yeah. So, which means everyone is in shot. So you might be, I felt sorry for the prisoners, but they were on set every day, and they might not even been speaking, but they were fixing machinery. So I think the prep itself came in the doing, because we were there for 2 months and we're constantly shouting at this guy, we're the separation of prisoner and guard actually became quite realistic.
That's interesting.
Yeah, as actors. So a lot of the, I would say, the prisoners kind of got a bit depressed, because it was kind of like, they were being pushed around and all the rest of it. Yeah. So, I think the prep was in the doing of that, because it sort of took over in a way.
That's an interesting way of thinking of it. I've never thought of it in those terms, that when you're doing it, that feels like,
I think because of the way they built the sets, usually it's just like, it would be a corner and your set would be there, and then everything would be just like open and everyone can see it, but that was like, it was closed. And also, it was shot during the COVID period, so when we went in the morning, no one was allowed to leave. Yeah. So you're in prison for the day, and then you go home at night, and then you come back next day for 2 months, basically. So, yeah.
And where you are, your character, geographically in the set, he's looking down, isn't he?
That's right.
So you had a view that not many other characters got.
Yeah, that's right. And what was interesting about that is that there wasn't many guards, because the way they made the prison work was it was an electrocuted floor. Yeah. So we wore these shoes. So you didn't need to have any guards in the prison with them. So that's why we're all on top watching, because we don't need to be down there, because we press a button and we could kill everyone just like that, basically. I know, sadistic.
You say you were there 2 months. I mean, that's quite a long time for TV as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think because that sequence is a big chunk of it. That's how long it takes to film, really.
Were you a fan of Star Wars before you came into this?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a fan. And I like the way the TV was going, and I found that Andor was my preference to a grown-up version, if that makes sense. It was more edgier, it was more kind of like, so as an actor it was kind of like, right, you could kind of go all the way with it. So it was like a drama, you know.
Totally.
So yeah.
And I'm assuming you kind of knew that when you came into it. This is a bit more edgy.
Yeah, we had an idea, and also they're not going to cast me if it's not going to be edgy. They're like, oh shit, yeah, we want someone who's. So then you know if they're casting you particularly, what they're kind of going to be looking for, you know.
And what did you make of your character?
Well, he's not a very nice guy, put it that way. He's not. But it's like you can't think that when you're doing the job. And then you've got to make it as believable and as real for you. And it's like, this is this guy's job, but actually he's trapped in this prison as well. No one gets that. But for you to work it, why he might be so, to justify him being an angry, miserable person, is that he's been sent here to work and he's not getting off the planet. He's there. So he's, in a sense, one of the prisoners as well.
That's a great perspective. I'd never considered that, but of course you're right. It's not like he can just fly home for the weekend.
No. So he's not there on holiday for sure.
No. When you're going into Star Wars, one of the many aspects that people get excited about is the costume. Certainly for actors, I know the costume informs the character a lot. Yeah. What did you think when you saw your costume?
Well, when we went for the fittings, it was really interesting, because especially the boots you need to wear so that you don't get electrocuted. Yeah. I thought it was amazing. I think the time spent on, it's like costumes and set, for me, it felt like immersive. So it just really helps. It's like, it's not always like that, you know. It's just like you go to work and you put on the clothes, but this was so immersive. The costume as well, is that it does transform you.
And Star Wars is, a lot of it is about, I mean, it's broad, it's quite broad, it's action adventure, and there's all the other elements of Star Wars, but one of the things that fans love is there's so much detail.
Yeah.
When you're on the set, you say it was a full 360 set.
That's
the
right.
detail must have been crazy.
Amazing. I mean, the things, the operation of the instruments there are working. So it feels real. So it just helps you, you know, you disappear into this land, into this world, because it's all there. You know, so you don't have to imagine, oh shit, yeah, you're I don't know, you're whatever you're using.
Yeah.
It's not even really a prop. It's like, right, this actually does work.
So everything's quite that machinery that we end up seeing as part of the Death Star.
Yeah.
It's the physical thing on set's pretty hefty. There's weight to it.
I mean, with things they might just do, so you won't get the I had the sat rod things. So the only difference is they will light up when you touch people with it, but you won't get the sound.
Yeah.
And the sound is put on after. So it's a big thing, the sound design.
And it's not really shocking them.
Yeah, we can't shock people for sure.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Star Wars fan, Fantha Tracks fan.
And what did you make of the episodes when you saw it at the end? I'm assuming you've watched the series.
Yeah.
Were you? I mean, you must have been thrilled with what happened and how it played out.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I mean, the biggest thing for me was the thing with like this whole thing where Andy's character is trying to get them to escape and they overthrow it and he can't even go at the end. But it's quite an interesting, I didn't know any of that filming, and I didn't know what happens to the prisoners, do many of them escape or anything. So getting to watch it all was quite amazing because you see what really happens.
Yeah.
So
just being a little piece of that big Star Wars jigsaw was top stuff for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to be part of it, and it's amazing to be part of that process, because I don't think I mean, I've been, as I say, I've done June 2, and that's quite epic sets and everything. But I felt like Andor was just more interactive with their sets.
You mentioned you're friends with Andy. Are you old work colleagues? How do you know each other?
Yeah, we did a film years ago, so it's so nice. It's like, with all actors, you know, you do something and you don't see someone for years, but it's like yesterday.
Yeah.
So it could have been 8 years ago, and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, how you doing? And you get to hang out again, see you another 10 years, or see you another 6 years, whatever. It's sort of how it all works, yeah.
It's funny when we do our conventions and the Fantha team, and we're seeing each other and talking all the time, and you travel around and do stuff together, so we're in each other's pockets quite a lot as we do. But for actors, as you say, you can be really tight with a little company working on a film or a show or a theatre piece or whatever, and as you say, not see each other for 10 years and then pick it up like you've missed nothing.
Yeah, and I think like the way with I don't know, film, TV, is that when you get there first day, you need to make friends really quickly.
Yeah.
Because people got to trust you in scenes, and you've got to trust them, because you're doing things you might not normally do in real life. So you've got to you've got to get close, like in minutes, basically. I mean, I've turned up on jobs and they're like, right, that's your love scene, so you've got to kiss it. I'm like, right, nice to meet you, right, that's what we're doing now. So yeah, or whatever it could be, but it's like it's very quick, the process. So you need to be fast at getting to know people, you know.
And there's a lot of trust involved in that, isn't there?
All trust. That's why you got to connect really quickly.
Yeah. You mentioned June 2. I mean, biggest hit this year so far, I believe.
Yeah.
How was that as an experience?
That was amazing. Denis is an amazing director, and it's epic on a really, really big scale. And just working with someone like that who has this sort of massive picture of everything, but when working with you, it's so personal and intricate. So he can be objective about the bigger picture, but still be with you in that moment. And he likes to play in terms of like imagination, playing with actors and characters and things like that, you know.
And is that quite unique for a director to be as interested in the big picture as he is in the small detail?
Well, no, some I've worked on jobs where we'll be doing a scene, I've not even seen the director because they're going to be in their wagon directing on monitors. But so everyone's different, but I think that's quite unusual to be able to do something this wide. Say it would be like, right, we're filming this whole room today, but actually you're seen here now. I am so into that at that moment, but I can still see back there what's going on and work with that at the same time. So,
do you prefer that when a director's coming to you and giving you literal direction?
I liked specifically with him. His attention to detail and what he can see, what he can hear is quite phenomenal. I've never seen it before. Even when we were doing ADR, which is what you do maybe months later, and then you go into a studio and you've got to do a voice that they didn't pick up. He can pick up, and he would say, like, that's not the same tone that we were, because you've got to replicate, and he can hear it, and it's like every piece of scene for him is a piece of music. It's not music as such, but he sees it as a piece of music, and it's got to, rhythm of it has got to work like a piece of music.
Yeah, that's a fascinating parallel.
Yeah.
So when he's directing then, is it almost the smaller details are the most important? Or?
I think they are.
Yeah.
Which is like, I love working that way. So for me, it was like, whoa, this guy is like, because usually the stress of a big show, the stress of a big movie is sometimes it's broad strokes because they can't spend that much time with you personally. Yeah. But for him, it's like, no, and that's why I think his movies probably do so well, because it's like detail.
And the audience appreciates that attention.
Yeah, with everything,
You also worked on Mission Impossible.
I did work on Mission Impossible, which was quite interesting. Basically, we shot that during COVID as well, so it's interesting. We were on, we were off. But I remember my first scene, which was kind of a disaster, because it was like we're in Abu Dhabi Airport, which is the biggest airport, I don't know if it's finished yet, in the world. So it is miles, and it goes on for miles.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get there in the morning, and my first scene is I go past Tom Cruise, he walks this way, the camera is on me, and hello? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, still hear.
And as he comes past me, he looks at me and he gets something in his ear from the van saying I was a Russian spy, basically.
Yeah.
And then so I get there in the morning. It's like 6 a.m. Tom's there. Tom sort of does everything as well. So he directs, he calls action, and he's in the scene. And then it got to like, I think it was like midday. And we're going up with all the extras back and forth, and I'm like, I need to use the bathroom. Tom hasn't broken for the bathroom from 6 to midday. I'm like, what's going on? I've had coffee and everything, and then
who's this?
It escaped.
I'm so sorry about this.
Right. One way out. One way out. I'm part of my gang. How you doing, buddy?
Unacceptable behaviour.
How you doing?
Back to yourselves.
Need you all back on the show.
And off they go.
Yeah, good bunch. So we were with Tom Cruise, weren't we? So I couldn't use the bathroom. Anyway, I just thought, right, I'll sneak into the bathroom because we're not actually doing the take. And as I went to the bathroom, came out, Tom called action, but he can't actually do the shot because the camera's on me. But because he doesn't mess around, no one else is allowed, you've got to be on. And I'll just run really quickly right into before my shot and walked in and just made it, basically. But it was like, it was the first time with him. I was like, oh, why is this happening on the first time? I'm like, shit.
Did he ever find out?
No, he's a good guy.
Luckily, he doesn't subscribe to Fantha Tracks, so he probably never will.
Yeah.
Is he quite unique? I mean, as you say, he seems to be one of those guys, first one up, last one out. Is that quite unique? Being a megastar as well.
Yeah. Well, I think he's a very passionate man about what he does.
Yeah.
And he kind of expects and wants everyone to be passionate as well, which is kind of infectious on set when there's a person like that. Yeah. So he just loves it, and he's like, he's alive, and that's his like happy place,
It leads from the front.
Yeah.
And one other thing I saw on your CV as well, Downton Abbey.
Yes.
What a mega hit that's been. What was your involvement in that?
Oh, I was a police officer, so I wasn't actually in the house. I was a police officer and there was a big scandal. We had to go and find out who it was, go to the house and find the person who was involved in the scandal as one of the big characters. But yeah, that was quite a while ago, that one. But it was interesting because it was, again, it was a separation. It was us and them sort of thing, because that was back in, it's a while back, and there's more of a separation then, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's some big franchises you've been involved in. Is there anything you'd love to go for that you've not been involved in yet?
I mean, I do like sci-fi now. I do really like it. I've been involved in a couple of sci-fi stuff, so whatever sci-fi next is coming up, I do really enjoy it, you know?
What's the attraction, the attention to detail with the costumes, the effects, the detachment from reality almost, or the parallels to our lives? What is it that grabs you about that?
I feel like it's so... You're somewhere else completely.
Yeah.
You're in a different universe, basically. So to me, it's quite amazing because it's so much goes into creating that universe, where if it's just, say, modern, we're taken for granted because we know it so well.
Yeah.
But this, you kind of got to really think about what's going on, where are you, what it's all about. You know, I think there's more detail in it, basically, and that's what, grabs me, you know?
There's not a shorthand to where you are, but there's the emotional shorthand that translates to every story, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're still going to be a real person.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, unless you're being a real person, probably no one's really going to be that interested in you, you know? So it doesn't matter what planet you are. I know, I mean, I mean, it literally doesn't matter. You're still going to be, as I said, the prison guards, they're like, I'm bummed out. I'm here every single day. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
You know, he wants to be on a planet where it's like sunshine and stuff. There's like nothing. He's closed up. So, yeah.
Well, we're glad you were here. It's been absolutely fascinating to talk.
Thanks
for having me. Put your hands on, please.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
Next up for today's episode, Paul Naylor sat down with Chris Bartlett. Chris played numerous droids. So here's Paul and Chris talking all things droid on this special episode of Making Tracks.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, Chris Bartlett, everybody. Chris, you've worked on a number of different Disney Star Wars projects. Mm-hmm. In fact, you're pretty much everything, I think.
Well, I've played 20 characters now in Star Wars. Yeah,
amazing.
18 of them are droids.
Yes. Yeah. Now, obviously, because of your slight build, you will fit in a droid far better than I would.
Oh.
I'm up for Jabba the Hutt in the next one, so it's all good.
See.
How did it all come about?
Wow, how did it all come about? Well, a long time ago, I was cosplaying about 20 years ago. I built a Stormtrooper kit, a Boba Fett, and other costumes, but I would come to conventions, and this was like my acting school. So I would, I was trying to play the character, I would learn the character, and then I would try and play it as real as possible. So I'd be walking around asking people for, for their identification. Let me see your identification. And I know he can do it better than me, but anyway, and then it took me 3 years to build a C-3PO costume.
So you built your own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lucasfilm called me. I got this surprise email saying we'd like you to come out for a meeting in San Francisco at Lucasfilm headquarters, and so they they bolt you together and screw your ears on and flip on the lights and turn on the microphone. And I said, my goodness, why hello, I am C-3PO. And they're like, yeah, okay, all right, we get it. And then we started this really great relationship where I've played C-3PO in every television appearance in the last 18 years of him in live action.
Yeah.
Until Ahsoka, when Mr. Anthony Daniels made a special appearance as C-3PO on television.
Well, I don't think we'll begrudge him that, eh?
What was that?
We won't begrudge him that. I'm sure he's...
No, of course. Yeah. No, it was great for fans. A really fun surprise to see him and hear him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in the suit for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, yeah. Now that was a very subtle inclusion, wasn't it? It was very much in the background. It was sort of like, is that 3PO?
Yeah, well, we got this really nice, I have a picture of it up on my table, really nice featured moment where 3PO is, interpreting for aliens and other life forms. And it was just a really kind of a short moment, but it was really special because, when I do a show like that, inevitably the director will say, okay, Chris, why don't you suit up? You don't have to put on the head. Just come out and you can meet the cast and everything. And I always tell the dresser, just do the whole thing. And so when I come out, they're meeting 3PO, and he's lost, obviously. Is this a droid maintenance facility? R2-D2, it is you. Oh, I've been lost. And so we have this really fun, special moment where we're meeting this iconic character, and that's really just, I just feel so lucky to be part of, sharing him, and that's what we're doing, yeah.
And so of the other characters, like you say, predominantly because of your frame, you're ideal for protocol droids and anything similar. I personally, I suffer with claustrophobia, so putting a mask on me would be a nightmare. How do you cope with that? Is that something that you have to mentally prepare yourself for, or are you just cool with it anyway?
The helmets are all different. I mean, a regular protocol droid like C-3PO, they're all the same. You're looking through drinking straws, and the rest is all blank. And but then others are better, others are worse. But it's something I really love doing. So with anything that you love doing, you don't mind some of the sharp edges because you really love what you're doing. So I get used to it. C-3PO takes snapshots. Oh, what? Oh, I see. Oh, yes. What? Like he's taking snapshots of his environment and his photoreceptors. That's how they work, and it just works. But then I also do all the rehearsal with the helmet off, and because what you want is, I learned this from Carl Weathers working on season 3 of The Mandalorian, that we do all of our rehearsals without the face on, so that we can have this emotional connection between the two. Not only the actors,
when you go
but the actors and the characters, so that when you go say action, you see, like an example, Carl Weathers explaining to Copper in season 3 of Mandalorian, that's not an Imperial destroyer, that's a Mandalorian privateer ship. See, you can see by the markings, like that scene, you can really see like, oh, he really cares about the droid understanding this, and that's because Carl made such a point that we have this emotional connection, do it without the helmet, and then when we say action, then it's already there.
I mean, that was a really sad loss losing Carl, wasn't it? Like that.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I worked with him every day on season 3, and we became really close. Carl is this legend, Apollo Creed and so many other characters in our minds, but in his mind, he's just playing along with us in this scene. And so one of the really special surprises of getting to know Carl Weathers is to find out that he's just a human who's creative and likes to, do this stuff, create characters and stories together. And that's why it was such a shock and such a sad loss to lose him so
suddenly, wasn't it? Yeah. So take it back to when you first became interested in Star Wars. I take it you were probably a very small child.
Well, I was 7 years old in 1977.
Same here.
Oh, look at that. So we were the perfect age. There was this generation that, there was no promise of a more Star Wars. We just went and saw Star Wars. And then we would go home and we get the action figures and play in the shag carpet in our living room, or making up stories with these, maybe fringe characters. Everybody had Darth Vader and Princess Leia, but what about the power droid? What's his story? And then you build, of course, your spaceship out of a refrigerator cardboard box and cut all the windows and buttons in it and everything. And it just really ignited my imagination as a 7-year-old. And so then we'd build our own costumes. My parents, built my first costume as Luke Skywalker with a tinfoil belt and everything. Nice. I just felt like, I knew that I looked exactly like Luke Skywalker. So in the costume, that's how you feel. And then they built me this robot, this big silver cardboard robot, but inside I felt like Megatron, you know? And so I have this great photo of me in a silver cardboard robot, and then me as C-3PO or Death Star droid. It was one of the scenes. Anyway, so I have great, really creative, really encouraging parents.
Yeah.
That even from a small child, they were really inspired.
So you had a strong connection to Star Wars for all these years.
Oh, yeah.
Same here, yeah.
Yes.
So of the other droids other than 3PO that you've played in various shows, is there a particular favorite?
Yeah, Q90 on Mandalorian. He was season 1, and he would say they in the script it said he has a Cockney accent, and so I learned all the lines. And so when we're on set, I rigged the costume with a microphone and a voice amp so you can hear me, and I do all the lines as we're because you want to be able to give to your fellow scene partners. And so I would say, despite recent modifications, your ship is still quite a mess. The navigation is intermittent, the fuel lines are leaking, and the hyperdrive is only operating at 67.3% efficiency. We have much better ships than this. And so the idea is, what was great with Zero is I got a great shootout in Star Wars, which was, I'd been preparing my whole life for this, as a kid. And then I got to fly Mando's ship, again, preparing for that my whole life. And then I got to work with Grogu for the first time, who's as real in person as he is on TV.
So you were one of the animatronic versions.
Yes, yeah. If he's sitting here on the couch with me, I would say, hey Grogu, you need something to eat? And he would look up at me like this, and his eyes would blink. And that's because the puppeteers are over there somewhere, and we're just sitting around all day waiting, waiting for it's our turn to do the scene. And so playing around, everybody's playing around in like a work way, we're not goofing off.
So did you get to interact with any of the actors that you thought, I can't believe I'm actually in a scene with this actor? Other than Carl, obviously.
Carl was the biggest one, but there was a moment backstage with Werner Herzog, who is a venerated director, writer, actor. He played the client. The client, yeah, he was like a ex-Imperial warlord. Yeah. He was the one who says, "I would like to see the baby," And so this is brand new, okay? None of these have aired. It's like my third day of filming on set, and I'm standing next to him while we're watching a scene being filmed, and I'm just like, my whole life of fandom is flashing before my eyes. I'm trying to keep my cool. I mean, but I'm bubbling up with excitement. And so I'm standing next to him, and I just lean over really quietly and go, "Isn't this exciting?" And he goes, "This is serious work. We're breathing life into characters which would not otherwise exist." And I go, "Yeah, that's what I meant. I meant that's what you said. That's what I was here." Anyway, he was. And working with Ewan McGregor too. I played One Jack, where I was hunting him all episode. This droid that looks like a LOM class droid from Empire Strikes Back. And all morning, I have to get shot. So all morning, I'm slamming against the wall and hitting the ground with no pad. I had to hit the hard ground like this over and over and over and over. And so one of the last times, I'm laying there. I'm exhausted, a little bit in pain, and they take the helmet off, and I see Ewan McGregor standing over me, and he goes, "Chris, are you all right?" And I go, "Yes, Obi-Wan, but you do not have the high ground this time." He said, "Oh, I would never say that."
And then hope that they film that bit, yeah.
Yeah, but no, he was such a pleasure to work with, and work with Gina Carano also. Season 1, I play the bartender droid. Looks like a Death Star droid, and I had the pleasure of, she was using me as a shield when the whole cantina was being shot up. So we have that connection.
Yeah.
This is Charles Soule. You're listening to Fantha Tracks.
And how fragile are those costumes? I mean, you're saying that you were knocked down over and over again. Did they smash at all? Or
No.
They're pretty good.
I build all the costumes that I wear on the show.
Really?
I build them for the show.
Oh, wow.
Except for Zero and the aliens. I didn't make those. But all the rest of the droids I build. And yeah, they have to hold up. And I do all my own stunts. So
so did you just happen to have them already built, or did you were commissioned to actually build them?
I can't tell you. Yeah. Yeah, it's a collaboration, we'll say that. So, yeah. Yeah.
So, outside of Star Wars, is there anything else that you've worked on?
I worked on the Orville, which I played a robot.
Yeah.
Big surprise. I also played in a show called Shining Veil, which is on Amazon. It was with Courtney Cox, Greg Kinnear, and Mira Sorvino.
Okay.
And I played the creepy goat. I was the villain of season 2.
The creepy goat?
The creepy goat, yeah. I said, could you tell me a little more about this character? And he goes, yeah, you're Satan. I'm like, oh, okay. So I go from Disney to the devil. But anyway, we had this very... They said, there was no screen test or audition for this. They said, we want you for this. It's a sensitive scene that you'll be doing amongst the rest of your scenes. There's this one scene that's very sensitive. You'll be forcibly impregnating Courtney Cox. And I was like, oh, I need to make a phone call. So I called Marty Matulis, who's upstairs right now. He plays lots of creepy characters in like American Horror Story and stuff like that. I was like, how do you approach something like this? He goes, Chris, there are good guys in stories and there are bad guys. And the job of the bad guy is to shine a light on the hero. And it was just a great explanation. And so you just, that's just how you approach it. And so there's a whole other story about how that even played out. Yeah. But it was, I play the creepy goat. And it's throughout season 2. It was a lot of standing and staring and looking at people as they walk by, but it's really like the head looks like it's a rotting actual goat corpse head. I mean, it's but the rest of the body looks like Frank the Rabbit from Donnie Darko. It's like a dirty cookie monster, they called it. Anyway.
I'll have to check that out.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I loved it.
So what do you prefer, playing a good guy or a bad guy?
I mean, I just like characters. Like if it's not a guy that looks like me or sounds like me or acts like me, then I'm interested. Because I'm used to this. I want to do something different. So. Yeah.
And if you could be any character that's already existed in the Star Wars galaxy, who would you like to play?
Ooh, the Gonk droid. I love the Gonk droid. He's the most simple design. He's basically a walking battery. He has great dialogue, and he's just, when you see him walking by, we're in Star Wars. It's a great. But no, growing up, I always loved Boba Fett. Now we have a lot of Boba Fett, but back then it was just seconds, and he said almost nothing, and so Boba Fett as a kid was who I wanted to be. Yeah.
So working on all these different projects, I take it you've got to work in the volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that? The volume is a round room with a ceiling, and all the surfaces are digital. They're TVs basically. They're all digital screens, and one example was when I played Zero. I got to fly Mando's ship, and that was a practical cockpit, and they parked that in this room, and all around me in 360 degrees is space, dark starfield, and it feels like you're really in space because, all the stars are just gently moving, like you're drifting a little bit in space, until I say, jumping to hyperspace now. All the stars stretch to infinity like they do in the movie, and so that was cool. But when I was I've been in a nighttime cityscape. I've been out on a frozen pier with this vast horizon, you know, and let's see, what else? They also use the volume to supplement practical sets. So you might have, like this hallway over here, you might have a practical set like that, and then there might be, say it's a really long hallway, you might see that on the screen, but when you look at it in the monitor, it looks real. So I had no problem imagining where I was, whether it was as one Jack in a nighttime, like Blade Runner looking, you know, city, like skyscrapers go, you know, I mean, it looks so real. So it was so much fun to pretend in those, because you never had to make anything up in your mind.
It's amazing how that's come on, because that would previously been a post-production thing, whereas now it's pre-production, isn't it? So you've got all these sets and scenery that you can work within.
There's a really great example of this in season 1 of Mandalorian when Zero is introduced. I'm walking down the ramp. That whole hangar had engine parts and all this other, you know, set pieces around, but then in the background there's like, you can see the whole hangar, and there's guys welding on ships, and you know, and they're way in the distance. It's just incredible and fun. And so, as an actor, you get to just focus on your character, and instead of trying not to run into the tennis ball in front of the green, you know, it's just it's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like you're enjoying your time in the Star Wars galaxy, and I hope that we'll see you again in future projects, which obviously we can't talk about.
Me too.
But it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Email radio@fanthatracks.com. Head to links.fanthatracks.com for links to our social media feeds, Fantha Tracks TV and Fantha Tracks Radio. Thanks to James Semple for the Fantha Tracks intro, Blues Harvest for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. New episodes drop Tuesdays and Fridays at 7 o'clock UK time. Our weekly news show, Good Morning Tatooine, goes live Sundays at 9 o'clock UK time on Facebook and YouTube. And remember, Fantha Tracks is absolutely free, so it costs nothing to stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.